I'm trying to like also decide what I should tell and can't tell. But I'll just say we're in Dallas, and I break a story that night after the game. The team comes home for practice between that and the Super Bowl, and then they're continuing on to Columbus. And so I decided to go to Columbus, hang out with my buddy Jeff Rimmer, the play-by-play guy, and watch the Super Bowl with him and then meet the team there. And so they had one practice at home between the Dallas game and the Columbus game. The story that I broke it from Dallas was that Nate Prosser was going to sign a 2-year extension. On the day of practice, Kent Youngblood for the Star Tribune is covering for me. Nate Prosser has his press conference or his press scrum in the locker room after he did that morning sign his extension. And apparently behind the scenes, Setoguchi was like ripping me. Kind of like, sources say, like basically blah, blah, blah. And so that night, I get this call from Youngblood, hey, what's with you and Setoguchi? He was just trashing you in the locker room today. And I'm like, don't worry about it or whatever. And so that night, I wind up running into him on the streets of Columbus. And I say something to him. It gets pretty heated. It started with, hey, he actually said something to me. I said something bad to him. It got heated. Heatley got in the middle of it. Heatley texted me that night and basically was like, hey, let's deal with this in the morning. Devin and you will talk it out, and Devin will apologize and all this stuff. Devin was, Heatley was always kind of Devin's like, sort of like mentor and role model type figure. And anyway, that next morning, like Jim said, I'm standing. There was somebody with the Wild making their NHL debut that night. I can't remember who. I was at his stall. It happened to be like a stall or two down from Seto. He doesn't say anything to me after I interview him. I was like kind of loitering by his locker, expecting, all right, we're gonna talk, and it never happened. So fast forward now a month, we're in Arizona. It's an off day, and then they're going to a team bonding bocce ball game. And they're walking out of the locker room, and Seto's first, followed by Heatley, and I'm like, hey, Seto. And he kind of walks by me and ignores me, and Heatley kind of gives me this confused look. And again, this is like 2.5, 3 months after the Chicago incident. And I get this call about an hour later. I'm sitting in the Renaissance writing my off-day story. Call comes, and it's Danny Heatley. I'm like, hello. He goes, Roos. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, hey, hang on for Seto. And anyway, Seto gets on the phone and just apologizes to me and says, look, I've been immature. I apologize to him, and everything's cool. All right. And the next morning at the morning skate, I went up to Heater, and I'm like, hey, what all happened there? He goes, well, I saw him kind of like snub you, and I'm like, I said to Seto on the bus, like, hey, what was that about? I'm like, didn't you hash this out with Russo? And Heatley is like, and Seto's like, no, I never dealt with it. And Heatley's like, look, you can't win this battle. He's got you could hate him or not respect him or everything you want, but he's got the power of the pen. He's going to win the battle. And so again, as a leader, I know a lot of people don't look at Heatley that way, but as a leader, he convinced Seto, like, let's just chill this out. And so from that point on, I'm sure Seto still hated my guts, but we absolutely got along. We had a good relationship. We talked, blah, 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 blah. So those are the type of, stories that just jumped out to my mind. It's a hard job sometimes when you ruffle feathers. These are human beings. They don't like to be ripped. That's why I just love guys like Matt Zuccarello. You go up to him and it's like, I suck. And sometimes that's just a cool thing, a refreshing thing to hear, from a guy that I told the story on the podcast the other day, or maybe on my comment section of my story today. But the other night in Denver, the way it works with the Wild, I don't know if it's like this with the other teams in town, is that like with 5 minutes left in a game, the PR person, Megan or Aaron Stickman, will come through and say, hey, who do you want after the game? And all of us as beat writers give, I'd like this guy. It doesn't mean that you're beholden to that. If all of a sudden you do want somebody else, they'll get them for you. But what they do is, so these guys, because especially on the road, they have to be on the bus within a half hour after the game, is they'll put a bunch of numbers on the board. And those guys are the ones that stick around the locker room to talk to the media. And we didn't ask for Zuccarello that night. I did it purposely because to me, he was accountable after the game in Nashville. It's like, let's give him the night off. And but he is just sitting in his stall waiting for us, because he was not happy with his game. And I just thought that was amazing. Where, on the other hand, probably something I shouldn't say, but where I go up to the captain of the team to talk to him, and he exaggeratedly looks at the board, doesn't see his number, and doesn't want to talk to me, and I was not having it. And I asked him, we had a 1-minute conversation. It was pretty tense.
I'll follow up on that real quick just to answer Jeff's question. You were talking about all the different kinds of off the record and how this stuff can work. Some of the best relationships I had with people, especially Vikings and Twins, the teams I covered as a beat writer, were with people who I had a conflict with. The conflict led to you talking out exactly why you're going about your job the way you do, and them getting it, and then there's a real understanding there. Most athletes grow up getting their butts kissed by everybody around them. You're great. You're going to make it. Don't believe the doubt or something. And they get the big leagues, and they're not good enough, or they aren't responsible enough, or they don't play well enough, and somebody rips them, and they have no idea how to handle it. So I'll just take you through the Sano thing a couple of years ago. I walk in the Twins clubhouse. Sano was in a terrible slump. And a former player comes up to me and says, he's 30 pounds overweight. He's not working out. It looks like he's partying too much. He looks terrible. The organization is really worried about him just ruining his career. So I take that, and I go ask somebody else in the organization who I trust, and he said, all true. I can take it to the manager. The manager says, I can't talk about it. And this is Paul Molitor, who was very good to me, but he said, I hope you don't write that. I just can't. That wouldn't be great for us to have that out there right now. He didn't deny it. He said, hey, I'm the manager. I can't encourage you to write that. Went to one other person in the organization. The guy said, it's true. I also wish you wouldn't write it, but it's true. So I wrote it, because that's my job. And, I would say, I'm going to be a jerk here, Michael. 95% of the people in our business in this market just want to get in there, get one quote, and get out and not make anybody mad. But that's not the job. We were in New York on Sunday. I asked Kirk Cousins a question, and he kind of started answering it in an interesting way. Judd asked a follow-up question, and we were getting someplace. We were leading him down a road where he might actually tell us something of value, and a TV person jumped in and said, but you guys won the game and everything's great. Well, that's not our job. Yeah. It's not our job to protect the players from saying something meaningful. It's our job to try to actually get them to say something meaningful once in a while. So that's the game we play.
No, it's tough.
And I'd rather go down the road where they get mad at me because I'm trying to do my job than just be one of these people who just wants to be buddies with them. Because you know what? They don't really respect you if that's all you're doing is kissing up to them. They got plenty of people in their life to do that.
It is. It's hard because you deal with these guys on an everyday basis. You have immense respect for pretty much everybody on this team.
Yeah.
There's certain guys on the team. I think pretty much everybody in this market knows, how much respect I have for guys like Parisi and Miko and Doobie and all these guys. But the job still is to write fairly. I mean, Eric Stahl. If you've listened to this podcast for the now 4 years that he's been on this team, could it be any more obvious how much I respect this guy? You think I'm enjoying sitting there and writing him the way that I've been writing about him since he was extended? You still got to do your job. It's not easy, and that's why I sometimes get. I do have a quick trigger. If you're going to call me a homer on Twitter, I'll lose my freaking mind. I watched a reporter in this town get to the ballpark yesterday and tweet out, "Let's go Min Twins." Come on. That's a homer.
Right, it's basically unethical. You're basically pandering to that organization, hoping they'll do it. And here's the amazing thing: is those people never get ahead because they never are willing to push anybody to get any information. So they end up just being fans.
But that's and I also have a quick trigger with that. It drives me crazy because I also know behind the scenes the crap that I deal with on an everyday basis that no fans understand. Part of this job is every day.
Somebody's mad at you every day.
It's especially when you're covering a team that's 0-2, already. And that's why so far I respect the heck out of Garrett because so far nothing has happened that has ticked him off, and I'm sure he's not overwhelmingly delighted with the way that I've covered the team since the start of training camp.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to make you stand there forever.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. So, two things. You've said before in the past that there are people in the Minnesota Wild that listen to your podcasts. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a message for them.
You have to take out some ad space. I'm kidding.
Sorry.
I'm kidding.
If I owned a business, I would. Yeah. Definitely would do that. So two things, but I'm going to get my first message of the Wild is, so the last preseason game was Kids Day. Uh-huh. And not all of the starters played in that game.
Yeah.
And they trotted out Victor Rask to sign autographs. Mm. And Jared Spurgeon and Ryan Suter did not play that game. I did check the game log. If you want to engage your fans, trot out Ryan Suter or Jared Spurgeon because he was only signing autographs for kids, was not signing autographs for adults. So I was there with my daughter and a friend and his daughter, and I have nothing against Rask. Rask and Niederreiter's over. Move on. So there's that for the Minnesota Wild. And so my question for you, you were talking about Eck, and Boudreau brought up that he obliterated the 2-mile bike ride, just came into camp phenomenal shape. How come he's not getting a shot as the number 2 center or with different line mates like Zucker, like Cunnin, like Zuccarello, or Parisi? Why not move him up? Why is he always stuck on the 4th line? I thought Boudreau wanted to give the young guys a shot, and we're 2 games into it, and he's moving everybody but Eck.
Yeah.
So
I really don't have a great answer for that one, and the reason why is Bruce hasn't really given us a great answer, which, by the way, usually what that means is that Bruce doesn't want to tell the real reason because it would be potentially, deprecating to that player. So my gut is that, and I don't disagree with it, is that everything that Eck has shown in practice and in his skill set. But you know what I mean? Like that. By the way, that was so we should cut that out. That's beyond talk about lack of humility. But I guess
we're
my
going to worry
point
about
is
that now.
my guess is, and again, I'm putting words in Bruce's mouth, but there could only be one explanation. It's he feels that Eriksson Ek plays a certain role, and then there are other factors that he probably doesn't want to say. One could be totally guessing that certain wingers don't like playing with Eriksson Ek. That's just a total speculation. But there's always reasons that if it doesn't make sense to the fan, there are usually underlying things, and that is one question that it's like Bruce just hasn't been able to give us a really competent answer for, and it might be because he just doesn't want to explain the reason. So one, to me, is he might just think that Eriksson Ek is his skill set is that he's not a top 6 forward. He also wants Eriksson Ek going against top lines of other teams. And it's kind of like I tweeted the other night that Jared Bednar was intentionally trying at the beginning of the game to get the McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog line out against the 4th line, which is Eriksson Ek, Hartman, and Foligno. And I tweeted out that Boudreau probably doesn't mind that. That's what he wanted. And what happened when the one shift, McKinnon's line got out there against Eric Stahl, Matt Zuccarello, and Ryan Donato, the winning goal happened. So that could also be another thing, is that he wants to try to get those top 6 wingers out there against other lines, but he wants Eriksson Ek in a shutdown role, but he doesn't feel like the wingers that he would put with Eriksson Ek in that shutdown role are guys that he would want going up against the other team's lines. There's always reasons for this. I mean, Boudreau, he's not an idiot. You know what I mean? And that's sometimes I do laugh, and maybe I'm sometimes give the coaches a little too much credit, but I do laugh, especially in this market, because it's such an intelligent fan base, and most everybody has played the game and things like that, is that they all, when they question the coach, doesn't matter what coach it is, whether it was Todd Richards, Jack Lemire, Bruce Boudreau, or Mike Yeo, it's like they think that they know more than them. But there's so many factors when you're running a team. I mean, you are the CEO of that locker room, and there's always stuff that you're dealing with that the average fan can't relate to. And so that would just be my answer on Eriksson Ek. But at this point, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, he might be your best center. So there might have to be a way to figure out a way to do this. But again, it's always about matchups too. On another side, how about this Carolina team right now? I mean, this is crazy. I thought they were going to take a step back, but you look at them now and you're like, this blue line's unbelievable. Man, they're fast, they're good. A guy named Eric Hollide probably look good on the Minnesota Wild right now.
Why can't the Wild ever get players like that?
I don't know.
All right, we got a final thought from Michael. We appreciate y'all coming out. A couple of food notes. Once again, thanks to Tin Shed. Reminder, they have NFL Sunday Ticket. They are the home of the Buffalo Bills and the Green Bay Packers fan clubs. They have pull tabs, 3 party rooms, and arcade games, as you see right over there.